Joy, peace, tranquility, vibrancy, and wellness. Isn't this what you want instead of constant stress? That's what host Rochelle Lawson is going to help you with on Blissful Living. There are many ways to reduce stress, some you may not even know about. Doesn't a little peace and tranquility sound like just what you've been looking for? Relax for a few minutes with Rochelle. She's the queen of feeling fabulous.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to your fabulous hour of Blissful Living. I'm Rochelle Lawson, the queen of feeling fabulous, and I am your host for this wonderful show that we're going to have today. I want to ask you guys a question with regards to what's going on with you and what's going on with the synergy that you might be experiencing in your personal life. Do you know about the synthesis effect? Do you have any idea what that is? Well, if you're answering no, I have no clue, what the heck is she talking about? I have a surprise for you, or I have a fabulous surprise for you, because that's how I roll. Today's guest is just this phenomenal guy. His name is Dr. John McGrail, and he is a renowned hypnotherapist, a success coach, a spiritual teacher, and a leading media expert on the topic of, guess what, personal development. He has integrated more than 30 years of teaching, coaching, mentoring experience with his clinical work to create what he calls synthesis. And this synthesis is a process for creating personal change and transformation quickly and profoundly. Now, Dr. McGrail's writing and expertise have been featured on numerous national publications, major online outlets, and of course on radio and in television. And he's just written a new book actually called The Synthesis Effect that we'll get into about as well. So without me just rambling on and creating the hyper enthusiasm that you guys know I love to do, I'm going to just welcome Dr. John McGrail to our fabulous Blissful Living Hour. How are you, Dr. McGrail?
I'm great, Rochelle. How are you today?
I'm fabulous.
Excellent.
I'm just really excited to share with the listeners the information about the synthesis effect. So here's a big question for you, and I'm sure you get this or have gotten this a lot. What is synthesis?
Well, I use that term synthesis, and I actually got it from the dictionary, because the dictionary definition is about taking a variety of ingredients, disparate ingredients, creating a combination of them and creating a stronger whole. And that's really what my process does. As you mentioned in the introduction, what I do for a living, and I have done for quite a long time, is help people live the life they want to live rather than the life they think they're stuck with. And most of us have issues, habits or negative patterns or low self-confidence or self-esteem or limiting beliefs, which are very prevalent, that are holding us back from living the way we want to live. And what my synthesis process does, in a nutshell, and I'm sure we'll get into it in more detail, is it helps my clients and my workshop and seminar students resolve those issues and create the life they want to live rather than the life they think they're stuck with. And the reason it's called synthesis is because I use a variety of tools and methods and traditions and techniques. Some of them are cutting-edge science, and some of them are as old as civilization. And when we bring them together, we align the conscious mind, which is the part of our mind that wants to change our life and isn't happy the way things are, with the more automatic and more powerful subconscious mind, which creates the patterns that hold us back. We find ourselves just, going back over and over and over again into the same old territory, and that is because the subconscious part of the mind, which really generates most of our behavior, our feelings and emotions, is very much like a computer. Once it's programmed, it'll play those patterns over and over again. Whether they're good or bad doesn't matter, because it can't tell the difference. So when we align the subconscious computer with the conscious desires, we create empowerment. We create personal growth, transformation, and that's what synthesis does.
I like it. So it seems like, what you described is, it sounds like this new wave type of scientific delving, so to speak, into the mind, but actually it's been around for a long time, and you're just bringing it to the forefront of our minds, or of reality, I want to say, so that people can get in touch with themselves and possibly change their old programming, and so they can learn that they also don't have to live by that old programming anymore that may not be beneficial to what they want to accomplish or achieve in life. Is that correct?
Absolutely. The human mind hasn't really changed much in the last 300,000 years. We've got modern science and technology, of course, but you're exactly right. It sounds like this, what people tend to call woo-woo or new age, or this, sort of esoteric thinking. But in reality, a lot of the principles and techniques that are used in the synthesis process literally come from ancient civilizations and cultures that intuitively knew what modern science is proving as to how the mind works and how we relate to ourselves and the world around us. So it really is. It's as old as humanity, and it's cutting-edge science. The latest discoveries in fields like quantum physics and quantum field theory are shedding new light on the way the universe, our planet, and our species actually works, and that's really what this is all about. It combines the old and the new, and the cool part about it is that there's nothing woo-woo about it. If you know how your mind works, it's just like if you know how your car engine works and it's broken, then it's easier to fix it. Well, if you know how your mind works and you understand how and why you got stuck, or how and why these negative habits or patterns or fears or whatever it is that's holding you back, how they got there, well, then it makes it much easier to undo it. And that's part of the process. In fact, the first part of the synthesis process with all my clients and with all my workshops, students, and seminars students is to say, hey, here's how you got there. So it's not because you're inferior, it's not because you're less than, it's not because you're weak, it's because of the way the mind works and the programming you received as quite a young child. It all happens, most of it, in early childhood. And so here's why. And then people go, oh, wow, okay, I get it. And as soon as that happens, we're on our way.
Right. You brought up an interesting point with regards to, the programming that we get as children that we don't even realize that we get. And right. I think when I was in nursing school, one of my psychology classes or something like that, I can't remember because it's been a few years, quite a few years, but I remember them saying something that by the time the child is 5 years old, they're pretty much set of how they're going to be when they're adult. All the patterning or learn, I don't know if I'm using the right terminology, but all the patterning exists in the mind. It's already been set up. The foundation is there, and then it's just building upon that foundation from 5 to adulthood or whatever, that we have these experiences that come into our lives that kind of help formulate, what's going on in our mind that we don't even know about. So when you said about, people in your workshops might be like, well, gosh, I don't know how I got there or why this keeps coming up. And you're like, well, this is happening to you because this is the type of programming you received. And let me tell you, you can change the program. You can rewrite the program. I'm here to show you that. I think that's really interesting for people to know, because we don't, in our everyday lives, that's not something we think about or even connect that, what happened to us as children that we can't even remember in our subconscious mind actually has an effect on how we're living our life as adults today.
Absolutely correct. There are sort of 3 periods of development that are the classic definition of human development. And you're right, by 4, actually, most of the programming is in place. But the first 8 years are what they consider the imprinting years. Imprinting suggests programming, and people don't like to think that they're programmed, but that's the way the subconscious mind works. So by the time we're 8, we are pretty much set for the adults we're going to be as far as our values, our habits, our behaviors, our beliefs and self-esteem, good or bad, is in place. And because the subconscious cannot tell the difference between good or bad, or reality or illusion, which is what allows us to watch a movie, for instance, and feel emotion. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. But by the time we're 8, we're pretty much set. And then between 8 and 14 is the second stage called modeling, where we begin to perfect the use of the programs we've been given in early childhood. And then from 14 to adulthood is the third stage, and by that time we're pretty much set in our ways. And then what happens for most people is that the older we get, the more set in our ways we get, the harder it becomes to make the changes we'd like to, even though we'd like to a lot. but it's because of the way the mind works. It's not because of lack of willpower or any of that. Willpower is a conscious energy, and the conscious mind is only about 10% of the average human mind. 90% of our mind is subconscious and therefore running automatically. It's much more massive, it's much more powerful, and you're exactly spot on. Once it's programmed, it'll run those programs forever unless we change the software, so to speak, and that's what this process is about.
Wow. So it's kind of like, when we see the icebergs, and I've heard this quite a bit recently as I go out and speak about health and wellness, but when you see the iceberg, we see this big, huge thing in the water, and what we're actually only seeing is a tenth of it. And so when you think about that and you've seen an iceberg and you're like, oh my gosh, how could that only be a tenth? If that's only a tenth of what we're seeing, then imagine what's lying underneath in the water that we can't see. So when you talk about, how our conscious mind is really like only a tenth of what we're operating on, or what we truly believe, we think that's 100% or 99% or whatever. Reality is that the 90% of what we're really operating, or how we operate, or the internal motherboard of our hard drive, so to speak, in our brains, is the subconscious mind. And I think that is so fascinating, because we don't even think about our subconscious mind. We just think that what we see and what we experience and what we feel is truly reality, and it's based on our conscious mind and not the subconscious that really is running the show.
Right, exactly right. And that iceberg metaphor is used all over the place. If your listeners Google images, the human mind, I can guarantee you'll see a picture of the iceberg, and the little top above the water is the conscious mind, and all that mass below the water is the subconscious part of the mind. Excuse me. And so it's a great metaphor, and it does tell us that our subconscious is much more powerful. Now, the cool part about it is that we can reprogram it. We can take the software that's not working out and put new software in, and that's what synthesis is meant to do as quickly as possible.
So let's talk a little bit more, because I find this, I guess as I'm getting older, I find this so fascinating, especially just in, the work of, health and wellness, and helping people to discover how they can be optimally healthy and well, naturally, holistically, all that kind of stuff. But I think it's just fascinating how people get trapped into a false belief, a false perception, because it's what they're seeing with their conscious mind. But then when you help them to discover just a little bit, beneath that surface, into the subconscious mind, how this, like, all of a sudden you can see the light bulbs or the headlights in their eyes light up, because they've discovered, wow, what I really thought was reality or conscious for me really is not. And look at what I can do to make my life so much better, whether it's in health and wellness or their careers or whatever they're doing. It's just so fascinating to see. And your work that you're doing is just really fascinating to me. I would like to know, how does synthesis work?
Well, we've already started, actually, Rochelle. It's basically a 3-step process. The first step is to create the understanding, because so many people, and I get clients, and I see several hundred new clients a year in my private practice, and I don't know how many hundreds of people I've worked with in my workshops and seminars, but so many people come to me, and first of all, I'll say, well, so where did this come from, this issue? Now, this issue can be I lack self-confidence, or I'm afraid to be in social situations, or I have a fear of something, fill in the blank, or I have a habit that I can't get rid of. It doesn't really matter what it is, but they'll say, well, I have this issue, and I'll say, where'd it come from? How did it start? I don't know. Just been that way. So that's the first thing, is to say, okay, and then the second thing is, there's something wrong with me, that people feel that they're the only ones that have this problem, and
right.
That is never the case. So the first thing is to say, okay, listen, here's the deal. There's nothing wrong with you. Here's how and why you are the way you are. And I take them through the process of understanding how our minds develop and how they work. And there's a chapter devoted to that in the book. And then, as you said, you can see the light bulb go off and say, okay, well, maybe there's hope. So once we create that energy, then it's about giving them tools, techniques, and a process to create the changes they want to create. In other words, to reprogram the subconscious. And the tools I use are as old as humanity. Hypnosis, which is a very powerful tool for creating change, meditative techniques, and also I've developed several models that are largely metaphorically based that are cognitive and conscious in nature, and that's what brings the two together. So you give them understanding, you give them a set of tools, and then a process through which to use the tools to create the change they want, and then to maintain it, because it's one thing to create something, it's another thing to keep it running well. If you buy a new car, it runs great for a while, but if you don't take care of it, it's going to break down.
Right.
So in my method, in the synthesis method, not only do I give my readers, my clients, and my students the tools, I teach them how to maintain the change once they've made it. And so it's sort of a three-step process, if you will, and obviously it all works at the same time. I
like that. I mean, I'm finding it very, very, once again, fascinating because, you just brought up something. For me, it's like, I have this fear of rodents.
Yes.
Why? I'm thinking, why do I have this fear of rodents? So as you're going through the processes, I'm trying to work it out in my mind. And I'm like, okay, has a rodent ever attacked me? No, they don't. Usually they run away when they see you. So why am I so fearful of them? And I think back, it's probably because it's something I picked up. My mother was fearful of them, and she probably doesn't even know why she was fearful of them. So based on my experience of seeing how she interacted if we had like a mouse or something in the house, as a little kid, you just pick up that. Now, when I'm looking at your process and so I'm understanding, okay, applying it to myself, understanding, okay, that's why that fear exists in me. There's no reason for it. There's no basis for it. And then next would be, okay, Dr. McGrail is going to give me tools to help me work through this process to realize that it really isn't real, Rochelle. It's a fabricated something in your mind that you can use these tools to work through. And then, just going through the process of what you teach, potentially helps me to come to grips with this fear that's not really reality and eliminate this fear because it isn't a reality. It's not reality. I should not have this fear of rodents. They're more fearful of me than I should be of them. So wow, it's just actually very therapeutic. And I hope the listeners out there today are getting some good information with regards to this, because I know each and every one of us on this planet struggles with this at some point in time, and some more than others. But it is just, I always like talking about the mind because it's such a fascinating subject, and we all have issues, whether we want to admit them or not. We all need help.
Well, you're absolutely right. And, all of our issues, good and bad, happy and sad, rational or irrational, and, of course, as you described, your fear of rodents, for instance, is really an irrational fear, or we would call it a phobia, because a phobia is a fear that is created where we're feeling this horrible response that far outweighs any risk. 99.999% of the time, if you see a mouse or even a rat, the bigger versions of them, or any rodent, they're going to run away. And we're much bigger and scarier. But it's an irrational fear, and the subconscious part of the mind doesn't know the difference between rational and irrational. The easiest example I can give quickly is to think of the best movie you ever saw. And when you get into a really good movie, you go into basically a state of hypnotic trance, and the subconscious mind takes over, the rational, cognitive, conscious mind that would say, what's the matter with you? This is a movie. Why are you laughing? Why are you feeling fear or excitement or tension? Come on, get a grip. That part of the mind sort of shuts down, and the subconscious mind takes over. And for those 2 hours in the movie theater especially, it feels very real. And so you're terrified, or you're joyful, or you're sad, or you're crying. Those feelings are real because the subconscious mind is where the feelings come from. And as far as the subconscious is concerned, this is a real experience. And then, of course, the movie ends, the lights come up, we come out of trance, if you will, and the rational mind kicks back online and says, oh, come on, I wasn't really scared. Well, yeah, you were. It was real. Yeah. And what we all need to realize is, and you said two very important things there. One is that we all have issues. Everybody, at some point in their lives, has stuff that holds them back. That's just the nature of being human. And two, it all starts in the mind. There is nothing in our experience that doesn't get processed by our mind. And the whole concept of the mind-body connection, for instance, in Western medicine, which I'm sure you're very familiar with, the allopathic, model of Western medicine treats the mind and body, or has traditionally, as sort of separate entities. And now, because of the latest discoveries around the relationship between the mind and body, we're realizing that you cannot separate them. And when you work with the mind and body at the same time, people heal faster, they get sick less often, or eliminate disease, and they can recover from diseases that formerly they couldn't. So it's astounding, but our entire experience is generated through the mind. So the more control you have over it, the more good programming it has versus bad programming, the better your life works. And in my method, rule number one is life is supposed to be fun. And that's what we strive for, and that's what I do with all my clients, is to help them achieve that. And by the way, my readers, the book is designed to help you do it yourself.
I like that. I like your model of how life is supposed to be fun. And I also love the fact that you recognize, you've been doing this for a long time, so you're like me. You recognize the fact that the mind and body are integrative, and what happens in the mind is manifested in the body. Now, as me, for being allopathic medicine, traditional Western medicine for so long, and when I delved into get my master's degree in Eastern medicine or Ayurveda, I had already knew that there was this connection. I had already knew it. I mean, I was an ER trauma nurse for a long time and had seen how people come in. If they came in what state of mind they came in is how their experience was, and how they were able to, I'm going to say, go through the system of the emergency room, so to speak, whether good, bad, or indifferent. It all was how their state of mind was. So I knew the connection a long time ago and knew about myself. Whether I applied it correctly or applied it all the time, that's a whole nother issue. But the fact of the matter is that there are more people becoming more aware of connecting the mind and body. And when you connect the mind and body together and treat them as one, or treat them together for healing, the healing that occurs in both aspects of the mind and body is so much more profound than, quote unquote, our traditional ways. And so I love when I talk to people like you who are on top of this and who are, in the forefront and understand and are helping to get that message out to people, because we've been so trapped in the old traditional way for so long that, and what you're doing has been in existence for thousands of years, so to speak. You're saying there's no new tools that you're using. They're just bringing them to the forefront. I just like that, because there's so much more out there to us to help us to be healthy and well and have that love of life that we should have, that we're meant to have, that sometimes gets lost in, all the stuff, so to speak. So again, I just want to thank you for the work you're doing. And for the listeners out there, I want you to know we will give you more information about his fabulous book, because I know this is touching home with a lot of you out there listening, as it is with me, just bringing up little experiences. And I'm running my mouth too much, so let me turn it back over to you. So now, Dr. McGrail, is there a limit to what you can apply the synthesis effect or synthesis process? Is there a limit? Is there things we should apply it to and not apply it to?
Well, that good question. They're all good questions. So the easy answer is that there is virtually nothing that it cannot be applied to. Now, there are some exceptions, of course. There are certain organic brain diseases, issues, and there are some psychogenic conditions where synthesis probably isn't going to do very much. Say, for instance, schizophrenia or really, really serious psychological conditions need more than one modality. And this is by no means a silver bullet. There is no panacea. It doesn't work for everybody, but it works for most people because, and I think the reason it's so effective is because I stumbled, or I don't know if stumbled is the right word, but I'm just a regular person like everybody else, and I had my stuff, and going through my stuff is what helped inform this process. But the way the models of synthesis come together, and the way it works, the sort of the sequence of events, for most people is, first of all, very understandable, and with understanding comes power, or the potential for power, and it's simple. One of the things that I tell, that I'm really proud of is that it's a very simple process. Now, it is a process. It's not magic. I do get people that, they come into my office and they've got an issue and they think that in an hour we're going to solve a lifetime of stuff. That's just not realistic. But it can be a matter just of a few weeks, not months and months and months or years and years and years. It can happen very, very quickly. So I think that's the reason it's become so successful. And, when I wrote the book, I had a a purpose, and that was to present this process to the masses, to millions of people, and help people empower their lives. That's what I do. And, it's great to have that intention, but, the proof is in the pudding. So, so the book comes out, and now we got to see. And the beauty of it is, and I don't mean to sound immodest, but the reviews that I have gotten, and for the listeners who choose to check it out on Amazon, the reviews from readers has been just astounding. People all over the world, because now there are foreign language editions being published, as well as the English edition, all over the world are writing me and writing reviews and saying, you know what, this is changing my life. And that is really the best reward of all, is to know that people are becoming empowered. And I want to say this really, really firmly. Every one of us, every single person deserves to have a joyful, happy, abundant, and powerful life. And we all have the ability to do it. It may not feel that way, but we do. And so what I'm delighted in is that this process helps so many find that.
Say that again, because I want to emphasize that that's truly what I'm all about, and that's truly what I'm trying to help people do by, having this show called Blissful Living.
Absolutely.
So can you just say that again? I really want the listeners to grab onto that like it's that nice piece of cheesecake, or maybe not cheesecake, but but that nice piece of whatever yummy food that is their favorite that they love and enjoy, because this is really some profound information and facts that really we never know whose life we may be touching by you just saying and emphasizing this, those words again. Because do you mind saying it one more time?
I'd be happy to say it. Every single human being on the planet, all 7.2 billion of us, has equal deservedness, if you will, of a happy, powerful, joyful, abundant life. Every single one of us deserves that, and we all have the ability to create it. Now, it's interesting because, we happen to be on one place in the planet where we pretty much can do whatever we want, and that, I think, is an enormous gift. But even when you think that there's no hope, there is always a way. Now, you may need a little help, and this book might do it, or you might do it, or I might do it in person, or there are many, many teachers out there that can provide the help. And it's important for people to know that most folks, in order to change their lives, big change or little change, need a little help. Again, it's because of the way the mind is designed and the way the mind functions. It's got nothing to do with being less than or inferior, but most of us need a little help. If you get the help, you can create whatever you want. And that is the key. So, yes, we all deserve it. We all have the ability to create it. And when we get the right assistance, it happens. And when it happens, it's amazing.
I love that. That is just absolutely beautiful. I mean, when you're speaking, you're very eloquent. I just feel this. I want to say love because it's the word that's coming to me right now, but I just feel this love emanating from you, this vibration that is just, loving and kind and genuine and very authentic. And so that's just, I feel really blessed to have you as a guest on the show. But also you equate things to, simple context that everyone can understand and just letting everybody know that this is what you deserve, and you don't have to settle for less. And whether you buy my book that will help you or you reach out and seek somebody else that you might feel that might help you, just do something to get you to where you want to be. And, of course, listeners, I'm going to tell you more about how to get his book, and he's going to tell you more about how to get his book, and we're going to tell you more about the book because I think this book has something for each and every one of you out there listening, and so I'm going to suggest that you go buy it. But with regard to that, you know how you said, I can't recall it right off the top of my head, but what it made me think about is, when you're a little kid and you're learning how to ride a bike without training wheels, and you just doing it, and you may ask an older cousin or brother or sibling or whoever, your dad, your mom, whoever was around, and they showed you how. So that was, and then you just kept doing it and then kept doing it. And then lo and behold, you're taking off and you're jamming on that little bike without training wheels. And I think it's kind of the same thing with what you're talking about is, get the tools, get the help. You deserve it. And you deserve to be that person, that little kid taking off, riding on the bike down the street without the training wheels, because when you're in that state, you're in a state of bliss and you're in a state of happiness, and nothing but positivity or more positivity can come into your life. And so just thank you so much for doing the work that you do. I mean, because Yeah, you're just truly beautiful. So I really thank you and appreciate you. If no one else tells you that today, just know that I'm telling you that.
Well, that is so very kind of you, Rochelle. Thank you so much. And that it is very much like that. I don't know, maybe you saw it, but my last blog entry was about ditching the training wheels. I used that metaphor in it, and because that is such an enormous feeling. When we're very young, we don't know that there's any such thing as failure. There is no such thing as failure, by the way, in my method, and we can talk about that. But when we're little, we see these big versions of us called adults walking around, and we say, boy, it would be kind of cool to walk. So we start trying to get up. And, of course, we fail, quote, unquote. We fall on our little butts thousands of times before we finally figure out how to use those legs, and then thousands more times when we try to walk, and then finally we get it. And then we keep doing it and doing it and doing it. And, of course, now walking is as instinctive as breathing. You don't even think about it. You just do it. It's automatically programmed. But if you knew about failure at that age, after the first couple hundred tries, you might say, well, I'm done. I can't do it. And see, as adults, we have this thing in our mind called failure. And so, it's like taking synthesis as a process is like getting the training wheels off your bike. Suddenly you're not kind of wobbling around the corners. You're scooting around those corners and you're gliding. And the more you practice it, this is the beautiful part about it, sometimes it may start with one issue. I'll just take something very common like losing weight or quitting smoking or getting over your fear of rodents. You transcend that one issue, which is really holding you back, and all of a sudden all the other little ones start kind of floating away because you've learned how to do it. And once you learn it, you never let it go, and it gets better and better and better. And pretty soon it's almost as automatic as walking or breathing, leading an empowered, happy, joyful life. So first, thank you so much. I greatly appreciate your compliment. And, that is what this whole thing is about. The more people I can reach, the more of us that live that way, the better our world is going to be. And I really think that's what we're here for, is to evolve and not to fight one another and continually fail. It's exactly the opposite.
Well, I agree, and I think, between me, you, and so many of the other people out there, really trying to do good work and bring it, to the forefront of the masses, I think if we just, it's going to be like this domino effect, and maybe one day in our lifetime, or maybe not in our lifetime, but one day we will have a world that is truly, loving and people genuinely want to help the other person, their fellow man, to succeed and survive and thrive and all that good stuff. So, it's just kind of a little mission that I probably had since I was a little kid, and that's probably why I became a nurse, and, I'm into health and wellness and all that, because I really think that we all deserve it, and we all can do it. And sometimes you just need to help that person discover what they can't see that's at the tip of their nose. So, by me saying thank you for doing your work, I genuinely mean it. And of course, we must be synergistically connected, because you just wrote something about the blog with the training wheels, and here I'm talking about it, and I didn't read your blog, so that tells me we're synergistically connected.
Oh, that is so funny. Yeah, I just literally, I think, I can't remember when I posted it, last Friday.
Oh, that actually, as they say in my day or whatever, that's a trip, because it really is. But we're just both two people trying to do good work and trying to help others. And I think when you do that, you meet like-minded people. You attract, like attracts like, right? And so, that's why we're here doing this together today. And let me ask you. I know you do hypnotherapy, and that's always been so intriguing to me. Mm-hmm. So intriguing. How does hypnosis play into the process of synthesis?
Well, it actually plays a big role. And the reason it does is because it is such a potentially powerful tool for facilitating change and transformation. Now, hypnosis is grossly misunderstood by the general public because of what we see on stage shows and what we see in bad movies, where people are taken over and they're forced to do things against their will. So the first thing is that people need to know is that hypnosis is a natural state of consciousness that every normal human brain experiences several times every day. It's something that we do from the time we're little kids. In fact, when we're little kids, we are more in hypnosis than we are in consciousness. as we were being programmed by the adults around us. But anytime you watch a good movie and you get that feeling of emotion and it's got you hooked, you're in hypnosis. Anytime you daydream, literally, sometimes we can go off and the next thing you know, 15 minutes have passed by. Where have I been? You've just been sort of daydreaming. That's hypnosis. When you read a good book and you can't put it down and you're creating all this feeling in your body by reading words on a page, you are literally in hypnosis. So it's something that we all do every day. It's completely natural, and we never lose control. We're always awake and aware, but it creates, this is the key, a very open, receptive state of mind. Now, you can only be open and receptive to what you want to be open and receptive to, but it is a very open state of mind. It bypasses that natural resistance that we have to change. And that, again, that's just part of the human mind. We are resistant to change. We cling to the familiar with tenacity, even when the familiar is painful, because the familiar is less fearful than the unknown. That's just how human beings work. When we enter hypnosis, we bypass that natural resistance. And then we can talk directly, if you will, metaphorically speaking, to the subconscious part of the mind, which, again, doesn't know the difference between reality and illusion. It doesn't know the difference between rational and irrational. It's like a 3-year-old child that will believe whatever you tell it, which is what happens to so many of us when we're young. We believe whatever we're told, good or bad, indifferent, doesn't matter. And then we can tell that little child, hey, kid, you got some bad information, and what you were told is real isn't. You're not whatever. You can be this instead. It's like 2 + 2 is 5 is what you learned. Try 2 + 2 is 4. It's going to work way better.
Right.
And the subconscious mind, because it's very receptive and open, will take that information and basically reprogram itself with appropriate reinforcement and whatnot. The neurophysiological term for it is neuroplasticity. Our brain, which is the processor for our mind, has the ability to rewire itself. And that's essentially what hypnosis helps do. So it plays a big role in synthesis. It's one of the key ingredients, because unless we get the subconscious mind aligned with our conscious desires for change, nothing's going to happen, or at least not for very long. The conscious mind, even though it's only 10%, has the ability to overpower the subconscious programming anytime it wants. But because it's only 10%, it's kind of like there's a tug of war going on. 90% is pulling one way, the unwanted habits, behaviors, fears, or phobias, or whatever they are. 10% is pulling the other way. 10% can only hold that line for a certain amount of time. And so we align the 90% with the 10%, get the entire mind working in the same direction, if you will, and hypnosis is a very powerful tool, along with others, for helping us do that. So it does play a very, very prominent role in what I do, because it accelerates the process. For most folks, as I said, it's only a matter, and I know this sounds probably bizarre, but you can take a lifetime of negativity and get rid of it within a very short period of time. Most of my clients in my clinical practice are with me for only a few weeks.
Wow.
Average. Some take a little longer, some take a little less. And most of my workshop and seminar students are, they're with me. Those are half a day or a day workshops or seminars. And, my readers have the book, so they can keep referring back to it. And all the tools that I teach in the clinic and in my seminars are in the book. But, yeah, hypnosis is great. And since you do it every day, it's very easy to do it on purpose.
Right. I guess it's kind of like, how people, you're in Southern California, I believe.
Yes.
And you know how you get on the freeway in L.A., because I'm in the Bay Area. So we totally, I totally can equate to you. And I'm down in L.A. all the time. But you get on the freeway and you're just, I'm going to do this. I'm driving down I-5 headed to L.A. to see my daughter. And, there can be periods of time on I-5 where, it could be, an hour, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, depending, that, I'm just driving in a zone, not even consciously aware, what I'm doing. I couldn't tell you if I passed Arco gas station or In-N-Out Burger. I just, I'm just driving. And I would say, I guess that would be equated to a state of hypnosis, right?
Absolutely. That's a perfect state. Yep.
And so, for people out there listening, we all experience this every day. How many times do you drive a familiar route and whether you're going to work or whatever you're doing, picking up your kids or husband, whatever you're doing, and you leave one point A to get to point B, and you don't even remember what happened between that time you're in the car from point A to point B. You just know you got in the car and you arrived and everything was good and safe, and and then you think back, well, what was I doing? What was I thinking? You can't even recall it. So I want you guys out there to know that hypnosis is not this woo-woo stuff, and it's not what you see on television or on the cruise ships when they, hypnotize people and they have them doing bizarre stuff or anything. Dr. McGrail was saying it really is something that you can utilize to profoundly improve your life, improve how you think, how you feel, and connect with the process of synthesis to help you have that loving, abundant, joyful life that you so seek and desire. And I just kind of like to bring that kind of stuff to people so they can equate to something that, is more tangible to them versus, what sometimes, how it is. Some people just they can't get it. And then you give them something and it's like, oh yeah, I do that all the time. Oh, that's what that is. Oh, that can help me. So, again, you guys, it's just a matter of just being in tune. And of course, you want to pick up the book. But, before we get to the book, I just want Dr. McGrail to ask us, I just want to ask Dr. McGrail, within regards to your clinical practice and when you work with people, and the term, how you said you can take a lifetime of, I'm going to just say challenges and recreate your life or reprogram yourself and get rid of those. Do you see, I guess what I want to ask better is, do you use the process of hypnosis do you use hypnosis in the process of synthesis with everyone? Is that really part of your process, or is it, after you do an assessment of the individual, it may or may not be right for them? Well,
okay, so first, just a little bit of a correction on what you said before, and then I'll address that question.
Okay.
The hypnosis that you see on a cruise ship or at a stage show in Las Vegas is the same exact state of consciousness. It is just a state of consciousness, and that's why it's so misunderstood, because it can be used for a variety of things. So the folks you see in a stage show are in hypnosis, and they're doing all those goofy things because they want to. The first thing a hypnotist says in a stage show is, who wants to play with me? Who wants to have some fun? And the hands that go up are the people. Some of them are there's a very small percentage of the population that has the ability to go into a very deep trance very quickly. And a trained stage hypnotist can find those people. But the volunteers are going to be where he or she will find them. So it is exactly the same state, but they're doing those silly things because they want to.
Okay.
You'll never see a hypnotist suggest something so ludicrous that a person wouldn't do it, or so amoral they might do it, and that would end the show either way. But to answer your question, it is such a natural state of consciousness, and it is so powerful that at some level we use it with virtually everyone. And in the last 12 years that I've been using hypnosis in my full-time practice, I would say maybe 2 people out of several thousand, it wasn't really a good fit for them. But then there are other tools that we can bring to bear. It's really, at the end of the day, Rochelle, all about having our minds work the way we want them to rather than the way they've been programmed to. And there are a lot of ways to make those changes. But for most folks, unless you get to the subconscious level, those changes are very, very difficult to make. Willpower in and of itself is a very weak force for most people.
Right.
And it's nice to have it, but that's not what I would want to rely on. I don't want 10 people going against 90.
Right. That can work.
No, it very rarely does, and it usually creates more pain, because what happens is you try, and you keep going back and back and back, because that's what happens, and then eventually people say, well, the heck with it, I'm not going to do it. Or they say, there's something wrong with me. Or they say, well, this is the best it's going to be. And the second you settle for the best it's going to be, I think you're really doing yourself a huge disservice, going back to what we talked about a little bit ago. Everybody deserves to have the life they want, to create the abundance they want, to have the joy and the love and feeling good about who and what they are. And that's what life is supposed to be fun is about, not an endless series of parties, but feeling good about yourself. So when you wake up in the morning, you can't wait to get to the day, and you like the people that you're associating with, and you like the job you're doing, and you like the way you're treating yourself, and you're healthy and strong. That is a very fun life, and it's doable.
Yeah.
So kind of a long answer to your question, but yes, we use hypnosis usually in some form or another. There are a variety of ways of doing it, and it's completely painless. It's completely natural. The clients are always in control, and they learn that day one. Whether I work on the phone, and I have clients all over the world that I work with by telephone and Skype, or whether I work with them personally in a clinic, it doesn't. Even in a seminar, we use some form of it because it is such a powerful tool for creating the changes we want.
Wow. Again, just thank you so much for that information because, first of all, it clarified for me. I didn't realize those that do those get hypnotized on stage, or so to speak. I've seen it on cruise ships and stuff. And when you said, those are the people that really want to do it, it's like, he's right, because those are the people that hands go up first, and they seem to be more, engaged and willing to do that, and it makes it happen easily. And you see the people that, are easily hypnotized, and those that they have to excuse off stage because they're not. So, thank you so much for that clarification. Now, I want to get into the book.
Okay.
Because, here we've been dropping these little seeds, so to speak, and sprinkling a little bit of water on them. And this book just sounds absolutely phenomenal. And I think we all need it, so however many thousands of you out there are listening, you all need to go pick up this book. But let's have Dr. McGrail tell us, why is your book so different than all the other books out there that, kind of, I don't want to say they deal with what you're talking about, but, in a similar fashion? What makes your book so different?
Well, I think every book is valuable to its readers, but I think if there's a differentiator, and again, it goes back to my intentions when I wrote it. First of all, I've read hundreds, and I'm sure you have too, and I'm sure many listeners out there have read hundreds and hundreds of self-help books. I mean, there are thousands of them and hundreds printed every year. All of them are valuable. But I have often felt when I was reading one of these books that I was being preached to. Like there's this author, this expert, this guru is telling me, this is what you got to do, and I've got to figure it out. And I didn't want mine to be that way. I wanted it to be much more casual. And I wanted my readers to feel like they were sort of having a session with me in the clinic, having a conversation with another I'm just like everybody else. I had my stuff, and I share my story, part of it anyway, with my readers in the book. I was a very unhappy camper earlier in my life, and I had a lot of issues. I was an addicted smoker. I went through a bad marriage. I was very, hyper sensitive and compulsive and just type AA personality. Oh my God, it was exhausting.
Like that sounds like you're describing me. No, I'm kidding.
I was not a very happy camper and very insecure, and I got through all of that. And so, I share part of the process, but so to get back to the question, what makes this book different? Well, first of all, it's written in a very casual tone, in a very conversational tone, and I put as much humor in it as possible because, let's face it, we take ourselves too seriously, and that's one of the things that I want my clients and my students and my readers to say, wait, let's just not take ourselves quite so seriously. Let's ease up a little bit. The second thing, I think, is because of the way it's put together, and this is something that happened over years, but the models and the tools and the techniques are so understandable for so many people, and I one of the most gratifying things in the feedback I'm getting from readers, and I get a lot of emails from folks, and they say, I finally understand how I'm the way I am, why I'm the way I am, that there's nothing wrong with me, that I can change my life, and the way you put this together, it's like, hello, ding, the light bulb went on. So maybe that's a differentiator. And I think for most people, if they do the process, they find that it can be so easy and happen so quickly. So, I don't like to say, like, my book is the book, because it's not. But it works for so many people, and that it's pretty good.
So now that we've been talking about the book, it's the book, and I've been mentioning the book, and you've been mentioning the book. Yes. I want you to tell people what the title or the name of the book.
Okay.
And just kind of lead them up to okay, if you be good, we're going to give you a piece of candy at the end. So. Well,
yeah, we don't want to keep them in any more suspense. Well, as you might know, the process is called synthesis. The title of the book is The Synthesis Effect.
I knew it, but I wanted to entice the listeners. This is very special information, you guys. Stay tuned. Okay.
Well, the subtitle and the publisher insisted on this is Your Direct Path to Personal Power and Transformation, which is, in essence, what this book is about. So it's the synthesis effect, Your Direct Path to Personal Power and Transformation. It has had its first run in stores, and until the second printing, it won't be in stores again, but it is available on Amazon still and BarnesandNoble.com, and will be for the foreseeable future, both in paperback and in ebook form for Nook and Kindle. And so you can go to either one of those online sellers and find it. And I'm delighted. I hope a lot of people pick it up, and I certainly would want to hear from your listeners. If anybody out there, if you read the book, let me know what you thought. And I'm reachable easily on my websites. The first one, with your permission, I'm going to.
No, I was just going to say, go ahead and tell people how they can, connect with you, because I'm planning on getting a book, and
well, I have two websites that I would recommend, and number one is www. Obviously, all websites are that. Dr. John John McGrail, M as in Michael, CGRAIL. Dr. John McGrail, all one word, .com, and that website really talks a lot about the synthesis process and the book and how I work in that regard. And there's some videos on there from folks that I've worked with talking about what the process is like. And then if you're more interested in hypnotherapy, my other website, which is more related to my clinical practice, is very simple, Hypnotherapy Los Angeles, all one word, hypnotherapylosangeles.com. And there's tons of information on hypnosis and how it works in the process. And then we even have a website for the book itself. If anyone's interested, you can read excerpts and that sort of thing, although you can do the same thing on Amazon. But it's synthesiseffect.com without the. So lots of information there, and I'm reachable by email, and my phone numbers are listed. I have people call me, and I do return as many emails personally as I can, as well as phone calls. As I mentioned, I've got clients literally all over the world. Thanks to the marvels of modern technology, we can do sessions, from here to Europe, and if we can figure out the time zone difference, even have a client in Taiwan.
Wow.
That makes it a little weird sometimes because there's a 12-hour difference.
Yeah, no, I can relate to that.
But the key, Rochelle, and you said it, is that it's doable and everybody deserves it, and all you have to do is sort of take responsibility for your life, and the help is out there. Whether it's me or you or anybody, there is a teacher, there is support for every single person that will be right for them, and all you have to do is realize that you have got to make the first step. It is a process. It's not magic. There is no magic pill. Unfortunately, in our society, we look for instant gratification.
Right.
It does take a little time and effort, but it doesn't have to take a lot of time and effort, and I think that's another reason that synthesis is so effective, and the book has been so effective, is because it can happen so quickly.
I like that. Again, beautifully put. And, thank you so very much. So you guys listening out there, all his information, access to, each of the three websites, and, of course, how you can connect with him will be on the site, the radio show's my webpage. So you'll definitely be able to get that if you weren't able to write everything down. Remember, you can always re-listen to this show, again, by just going to the link on the website and connecting, clicking on that. You can definitely listen to it. I think for many of us listening, or many of you out there, it's information that you're going to want to take a bite of, so to speak, like that nice, juicy, yummy orange. You're going to want to take a bite of it, and you're going to want to take a bite of it more and more, time and time again. And that's why I'm so highly emphasizing that you pick up the book. I mean, like I said, I'm going to get it, and I just believe that no matter what you read, whether it's Dr. McGrail's book or someone else's book or a combination of all, I'm a reader, so I love reading. I always pick out something that seems to be speaking just to me that I need to hear or read or whatever at that particular point in my life. And many times I pick up a lot of different stuff. And so if you're having thoughts about this, or you want to, make a change, or you want to be better, you want to have that loving, joyful, peaceful life that we're talking about with health and wellness, then, I highly suggest that you take the action step to bring that into your life. And one of the best action steps that I can recommend for you today is to pick up Dr. John McGrail's book, or rather connect with him directly if you feel that you want to, dive deeper into what he does, what he has to offer, and you believe that he has something that can possibly help you to be better, do better, and feel better, then I highly suggest that you connect with him. He's a fabulous guy. As you can tell, he's full of love. He's very authentic, and me and him are just in synergy. And, we're just doing this beautiful conversation to bring this light to you guys all out there. So without me rambling on too much, I tend to do that, especially when I connect with a guest. It's just a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful feeling. It's, again, I'm going to do another food analogy, but it's like eating that fabulous pasta, or that fabulous food that you just so love, that when you smell it or you hear someone talking about they're going to make it, it just warms your heart. That's what this does for me. When I connect with the guest and we're just synergistically connected, and my light from my heart is shining to his and vice versa, then you know that you've hit the right spot. And that's all we're trying to do, is just to help everyone, all that we can, have a better life. And so with that, I'm running my mouth again, as I said I wouldn't do, but with that, I want to just bring the show to a close, and I really would like to thank Dr. John McGrail for being such a fabulous guest on the show today. We have so much more that we could talk about, but of course our time got short, and you never know. I may bring him back. He may want to come back as a guest. I don't know, but we can delve in even a little deeper, call it a part 2 of the interview for you guys, because I know that if he spoke to me, or if he spoke to you like he spoke to me, and you're feeling it, then you're going to want to know more and how to get in touch with him. So thank you again. Please go to the website and get the information with how you can connect with him. And I just want to say thank you all for listening, because it gives me pleasure to bring fabulous guests to you each week. I'm hoping that you are getting as much out of it as I am, and as the guests are willing to share with you. They're being very authentic. And Dr. John McGrail was, again, just fabulous. So thank you, Dr. McGrail, for being with us today.
Well, Rochelle, it was my deep and great pleasure. Thank you so much for your hospitality and your generosity. And I'll just say this right now. I'd love to come back.
Yay!
So anytime.
Yay! One of these days, when I'm down in Southern California, I'll have to come by and see you. I'm down there a lot, so we'll have to connect and come by and see you. But definitely, I'm going to bring you back as a guest, and we'll talk about that when what fits your schedule and all that good stuff. But for now, you guys, I hate to end the show, especially when I'm having so much fun and I'm so connected to my guest, like I am with Dr. John McGrail. I don't want to end. I could talk for hours. And the funny thing was, I used to be a really shy kid and wouldn't have never been able to talk to anyone like this. So this is just fabulous. But enough of me. I am Rochelle Lawson, your host for the Blissful Living Show. And I really, really sincerely thank all of you for listening. Stay tuned or tune in next week. We'll have another fabulous guest. And I'm wishing you much peace to your mind, wellness to your body, and tranquility to your spirit. Have a fabulous rest of the day and a tremendously fabulous week. And I look forward to connecting with all of you next week. Thank you so very much again for listening, and take good care, everyone. Bye for now.
You can find out more about Rochelle on her website, Rochelle Lawson, Rochele Lawson, LAWSON, or at healthhealingwellness.com. Or just click on her websites from the webtalkradio.net page right in front of you. And of course, you'll want to come right back here next week for another episode of Blissful Living. Thanks for joining us.